morning. How are you this morning? Okay, just making sure everything's set up there. And yes, this is not clickbait. Road rage is real and very frightening. It did happen to my husband. He was on his way home yesterday, and it's something that you hear about, but it's not something that you think you're going to experience. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down. But it does happen. I'm still trying to understand what happened, why it happened. And it's things that you hear about on the news, but when it comes to your own person, to your own home, to someone that you love, and it happens so quickly, and it is real, and it is frightening, and there was absolutely no need for it. And my husband could have been really severely injured on his way home yesterday. And I am so grateful that he thought very quickly and took precautions to roll the window up, to lock the door. So let me kind of bring you in and explain to you exactly what happened yesterday. I'm still a little bit upset, so if I'm talking fast this morning, I apologize. My husband was on his way home, and he stopped at a red light. Everything was fine, and there was a truck behind him. And apparently the truck thought that they had the right of way, and they didn't. So my husband just was going through the regular traffic, legal traffic of a red light, and this truck pulls up behind him really, really fast, starts revving their engine, blowing their horn, and then they get out of their vehicle with a metal. And okay, now if there's any children here, this is not made for children. This is something that children should not be hearing, and I did put on there, this is not made for children. This person got out of their vehicle with a metal baseball bat and was running up to my husband's driver's side window and was screaming and cursing. Well, the light turned green, so my husband went through the light, and he thought, okay, everything's going to be all right. Well, the next red light, my husband had a vehicle in front of him, and this vehicle came right up behind him, the same truck. So my husband now is between two vehicles, and he cannot exit the roadway to avoid this confrontation. And this person again pulls right up behind my husband and he jumps out of the vehicle again with his metal baseball bat. And my husband got his window rolled up and locked his doors because he could not go anywhere. He was between the aggressive truck behind him, and a vehicle in front of him at a red light. So thank goodness he was quick to think to roll his window up and to lock his door. And this man comes up with the metal baseball bat, and he's screaming and he's cursing my husband, and he's taking the baseball bat now. He's trying to get in my husband's truck. Thank goodness the truck door was locked. He couldn't get in. So he starts hitting my husband's vehicle with a baseball bat, the window, trying to burst the window, and using his fist and baseball bat trying to attack my husband. And it was all uncalled for. My husband was in the right, and this was a young, my husband said he was probably in his 20s, and he didn't seem to appear like he was acting in a regular or normal manner, that he could have been on some type of substance or alcohol, or maybe possibly had some kind of an issue he didn't know. So I'm just so grateful that my husband thought quickly, that he did lock his doors, that he did roll up his window. And of course, my husband came home and he talked to me about it. And I said, "Did you make a police report?" And he said, "No, because I didn't know where the man was. And he was following me. And I did not want him to follow me home and then have another confrontation here at home and you possibly get injured. So I wanted to try and get home. I did not want to stop. I knew if I stopped again that he would be right out of the vehicle again." So thank goodness my husband thought quickly. He did the right thing. So whenever he got home and talked to me, he did call in and he did make a report. Unfortunately, he did not get the vehicle license number, but he did get the 2 experiences with this vehicle and then it continuing to follow him. So he did have a good description of the vehicle. He had a good description of the male occupant that came out and was attacking my husband's vehicle. So my husband's in making a formal police report this morning. And my husband said he's just concerned if that happened to him, could this happen to someone else? And they also want to try and get as much information as they can to see if they can locate the vehicle. Before, Ohio had license plates in the front of the vehicle and on the back, and now that law is not there, so a lot of the vehicles no longer have the license plate on the front of the vehicle, so my husband was not able to get a license plate number. But road rage is real, and so my husband was asking questions like, do I have the right to defend myself? If my window's broken and they have a metal baseball bat and I know that they're going to do damage to my vehicle and or my person. So, he spoke with the police officer yesterday, and, they were very, very concerned. I don't know if there's a camera. There was 2 different red lights, so it happened at 2 different red lights. So I'm hoping there was a camera so that they can go back and pinpoint the exact time and the vehicle and the male assailant that attacked my husband yesterday. And the first attack, my husband didn't have his window up, so he was trying to get his window up as the person was approaching with the baseball bat, with the metal baseball bat. And thank goodness the red light turned green, and my husband was able to move through. So my husband did absolutely nothing to encourage this attack. And how frightening, you know. And this is just a small town. It's not a big town. And this is not something that you're hearing, you know. And but this is real. You know, road rage is real. And the gentleman was in the wrong. He did not have the right of way. And my husband could have been really, really severely injured with that metal baseball bat. So if you are out and about, please be careful. I know that I'm going to be taking extra precautions myself to make sure that my doors are locked and my windows are up. And my husband's disabled now, and I know that, like he said, you know, I'm not as fast as I used to be, and I probably would have been injured really, really bad. So I'm just grateful. I am so grateful that my husband's safe and that he was not harmed. Um, the boy was, or young man, was not able to break the driver's side window. So thank goodness, you know, that he was not able to break the window and to enter into the vehicle with a metal baseball bat, using it as a weapon to attack my husband. So I just wanted to come on here today and share that story and let people see that it is real. Road rage is real, and it can happen very quickly. My husband said I didn't even have a chance to think about it. It just happened so fast. And so last evening, every vehicle that passed by the home for several hours, my husband sat and watched, you know, to make sure that we were okay. Yeah, we're okay. My husband was the one that they tried to attack. Um, so we made sure we had our cameras on and have our external cameras on. And we made sure the vehicle was not trying to find my husband, because he did attempt to follow my husband home. So my husband is right now in speaking with the police, and I'm hoping at least one of the two red lights had a camera that law enforcement can go back and pick up that video and find the gentleman that was responsible for the road rage attack yesterday evening. So my husband told me today to make sure that I have, you know, my doors locked in case this person did come by after we went to sleep. I didn't see anything on the cameras. And I have trail cameras, so I set some trail cameras up last night because they have really good night vision. So we just wanted to take that extra precaution and, you know, make sure that they were not, you know, going to try and show up here at home and do more damage to my husband's vehicle, my vehicle, or personal property, or our home. You're such a sweet person. You did not deserve this. Well, this didn't happen to me. It happened to my husband. And he is such a very sweet person. And, you know, if the person would have been in a hurry and had flashers on, my husband would gladly let them through. But the person just made a illegal, tried to attempt an illegal red light crossing. And that's all there was to it. And when my husband proceeded, because he had the right of way, then this person just went absolutely ballistic on my husband. At first, he came up behind him and was blowing his horns, and he was revving the vehicle. Then he gets out of his vehicle carrying a metal baseball bat runs up to my husband's vehicle, and I'm here just for your support here. Oh, well, thank you, Peanut. Thank you. And just as he got the baseball bat up the first time and went to hit the window, my husband didn't have his window all the way up the first time. Thank goodness the red light turned green. So my husband made it through the red light. But when he came to the next red light, it was red. And there was a vehicle in front of my husband, and this truck come up and blocked my husband. So he was between the two vehicles. So my husband had nowhere to go. And this truck comes up behind him. And again, the guy gets out with the metal baseball bat. By this time, my husband, thank goodness, had locked the doors and got the window all the way up because he had nowhere to go. He was trapped between the two vehicles. And this person proceeded to scream and holler and take his baseball bat, the metal baseball bat, and was hitting my husband's driver's side window, and then taking his fist and trying to break the window, and screaming profanities. I mean, it was. My husband said, it happened so fast. He said, I'm just so glad that I was able to get my window up and lock my door, because whenever the gentleman seen he could not break the window, he was trying to get in my husband's driver's side door. And very frightening, very frightening. And then after my husband, of course, went through the second red light, then this person attempted to try to follow my husband. So my husband did the right thing and just made several turns. And eventually, whenever he seen that he had lost the person behind him, he made sure and continued, making different turns and going different ways. Sorry, I have to go. Stay safe and take care. Well, thank you so much, Peanut. Thank you. So my husband took all the precautions he could to come home safely and make sure that he wasn't being followed. And then he called law enforcement and did a report, and that's where he's at this morning. He's in doing a report because he told the police officer he would feel better to come in this morning, and that way he was here, we could set up cameras and monitor everything here at home just to make sure that this person did not actually find our home and was wanting to do more damage to one of our vehicles, our personal property, or our home, or our own, or us, or persons, myself or my husband. So it's very frightening, and I'm a little bit nervous today. Of course, I've got my cameras on inside and outside, and I've got all my doors locked. And my husband is, in making a formal police report now. So, yes, road rage is real. And this is not clickbait. So please, if you're out traveling, stay safe and make sure that your windows are up and your vehicle is locked. Because like my husband said, this happened just quickly, so fast. He said, I didn't even have time to think about anything. It just happened. So, wow. I mean, this is frightening. But if this person did this to my husband, he could do this to anyone. This could have been myself, as a woman. Of course, my husband's disabled now, and he said, if I had not have thought quickly, I could have been harmed. I could have been hurt very, very badly, because it was a metal baseball bat, and he had all intentions of doing damage and possibly hurting me, especially when he was trying to get in my vehicle, pulling on the door and using his fist and the metal baseball bat to try and break my driver's side window. So, please be aware of your surroundings. Take precautions to stay safe if you're out and traveling. And this was just in a small town, and we've been there many, many years. You know, we shop there. I was just in town 2 or 3 times this week, and it's very frightening. It's very scary. And I do not want children watching this, so I did put on there that this is not for children. And I asked my husband how old did he think this gentleman was, and of course he was given a description to law enforcement. And with the 2 encounters, he did get a very good description of the assailant. And he said that this young man was in his 20s, early 20s. And how frightening is that? How scary is that? So I do have cameras on. I'm taking extra precaution. And I'm probably going to run them for, a week or two. And I'm hoping that law enforcement will be able to pull up a video of one or the other. There was 2 red lights. So I'm hoping at least one of them had video running and captured the vehicle, captured the incident, and will hopefully lead to the arrest of the gentleman that tried to harm my husband yesterday. And this is not something that my husband wanted to do. Hi, Omi. Good morning. So he's in making a formal police report now. And he said, Tammy, please keep the outside cameras running and recording. Keep all the doors and windows locked, just in case he did, in the middle of the night, find our home. We did have cameras running all night last night. We did not see any vehicles. We were watching for his particular vehicle. But my husband said he did attempt to follow him home. What happened? I'm new. Oh, good. Okay, I mean, my husband was in town yesterday afternoon picking up some supplies. And he came to a red light. And when it turned green, my husband was going to go through the green light. Well, this other truck apparently thought they had the right of way and tried to cut my husband off. But my husband was almost through the green light. So this truck came real quick in behind my husband and was at this point my husband was at the next red light. And he pulls up behind my husband and he was revving his truck really, really bad, blowing his horn. Then he exited his truck with a metal baseball bat. And he approached my husband's truck with a metal baseball bat in hand. And my husband wasn't quick enough to get his window up. And thank goodness, before the gentleman made it to my husband's driver's side window, he could hear him screaming profanities, swinging this metal baseball bat around. And thank goodness the light turned green, so my husband went through it. But when he got to the next red light, there was a vehicle in front of my husband. And then this truck came up really rapidly and came in behind my husband again, blocking my husband between the 2 vehicles. So then this gentleman exits his vehicle again with his metal baseball bat, and he's running up to my husband's truck. So my husband quickly got his window rolled up, got his door locked, because my husband couldn't go anywhere at this point. He was between 2 vehicles, the aggressive truck behind him and a vehicle in front of him at the red light. So this gentleman made it up to my husband's driver's side window with the baseball bat, and he began to swing the baseball bat and hitting the window, my husband's window, trying to break it, then using his fist trying to break it. And then he was, thank goodness my husband thought to not only get the window up but lock the door, because then the gentleman was trying to open the door and swinging the baseball bat and screaming profanities at my husband. So when the light turned green, of course my husband went through it, and this truck continued to follow my husband through every red light, through every turn off. And so my husband finally made one or two turns and made sure that he did not see the assailant behind him. And by this time, my husband was right on the edge out of town, so he made several more turns to make sure the vehicle wasn't behind him before he come home. And I said, well, honey, why didn't you go to the police station? He said, I did not want to stop and try to get out because I was afraid he would come back in behind me. So my husband made it home and come in and made sure the doors were locked, everything was locked. And then he called the police on his phone. And he's in right now this morning making a formal police report. But thank goodness my husband is okay. The assailant was not able to break the window. There's some scratches and things on the window, but that's not that's nothing. My husband's safety is more important. And, but my husband did get a good description because the gentleman approached him twice. I feel so sorry. It was so frightening for my husband. And he said what he was more concerned about was this gentleman was, after the two attempts to harm my husband, he was trying to follow my husband home. So we made sure that we have outside cameras running and recording, and then I have some trail cameras. So I put the trail cameras out and I have them recording. And he said, I'm afraid that he might, try to find me here at home and try to do damage to or one of our vehicles or personal property, or even harm us, because he had intentions of doing bodily harm. And he was carrying a metal baseball bat, and that is a weapon. That is now a weapon when you're using it in that manner. So I'm still a little nervous. I'm watching my cameras. I have everything recording. And now my husband made a report last night by phone, and then this morning he's in making a formal report. And with the several traffic lights that this occurred at, I'm hoping that law enforcement can go back. I'm hoping at least one of them had a camera so that they can pull up the incident, the time that it happened. And unfortunately, my husband did not get a license plate number, but he did get a very good description of the assailant because he approached the vehicle twice with a metal baseball bat, attempting to harm my husband. So I'm basically coming on this morning to share this story. And yeah, road rage is real. But my husband sat here for hours last night, and every time he heard a vehicle, he was watching the cameras and making sure that this gentleman had not found our home and was not, going to try to do harm to our personal property or vehicles or myself and my husband. So yes, road rage is real. It is frightening, and you hear about it on the news, and you don't expect it to happen to you or to someone that you love. So that's why I'm on here this morning, sharing my story and just letting people know that this happened. And I do not live in a high crime area. And the small town that this happened in is not a high crime area. So please be careful when you're out traveling, even if you're just going out for supplies. And that's all my husband had done yesterday, was went out to pick up a few supplies and was on his way home. Just a regular day. And I'm just so happy that my husband thought quickly and that he did take precaution on the second red light, got his window up, got his doors locked, and that no harm came to my husband. How y'all doing? We're doing okay. We're just a little nervous. Every time I hear a vehicle, I'm, watching my cameras, and making sure that this person did not find our home. And my husband's in, you know, right now at the police station, and he's making a formal uh, complaint. And I'm hoping that at least one of the red lights had a video camera and that this was caught, because my husband did not get the license plate number. But with it happening, it was not just one uh, assault. It happened twice, two different red lights. Um, so my husband's very lucky that no harm came to him. He's very lucky that this person was not able to use the metal baseball bat and literally break the driver's side window. And my husband had thought quickly and locked the door, and this assailant was trying to open the door and trying everything he could to try to get into my husband's vehicle to harm my husband with a metal baseball bat. And it was all because the gentleman made an illegal, what would you call it, at a red light, illegal right of way. The gentleman was not, it was not his right of way. It was my husband's right of way. So my husband was following regular traffic laws. My husband was doing everything legal, and this happened just that quickly. And this person was very, very angry. My husband said he could have possibly been on some type of a substance, because he said it was not normal behavior. He said this person just, even the look on his face, he said it was very frightening, you know, and it takes a lot to frighten my husband. And my husband said, you know, now that I'm older and I'm disabled, that was a very, very frightening experience. And with this person trying to follow me home, he said, you know, now I'm worried about your safety as well, you know, so please, you know, stay safe, keep the doors locked, keep the windows locked. If you have to take the puppy outside, don't take him very far, you know, just right close to the door. Well, I asked my husband, why didn't he drive to the police station? Every time that my husband stopped, before my husband could even think, this gentleman was right behind him, was jumping out of his vehicle with the baseball bat. So my husband was afraid that if he did try to stop at a police station and there was another innocent person, even a bystander, that they could get harmed. So my husband did everything that he could to avoid the conflict. The first red light turned green, so my husband got to make it through it. But the second red light, my husband was trapped between the car in front of him and this assailant. So my husband was right at the edge of town, leaving town. So he made several turns, and his truck continued to follow him. And so my husband made sure he was no longer behind him, and then took some more routes coming home. And of course, at that time, had called the police on the phone, and they were trying to locate the vehicle. So my husband, you know, made it home safe, and again spoke with the police officer on the phone, and then we set up our cameras, made sure everything was set up in case the gentleman did try to follow us home. And my husband said I would feel better just to stay here, monitor the cameras, make sure that everything's okay, that you're okay. The police were aware of it. They said, you know, if you do spot the vehicle, please call 911. We'll be there right away. And then my husband went in this morning to make a formal complaint. So, how frightening, you know, how frightening. And my husband said he would have had to go back into town and back through at least 8 red lights to make it to the police department. So that's why he didn't turn around and try to go back through 8 more red lights, with this gentleman at every red light jumping out with a baseball bat, a metal baseball bat, and attempting to break my husband's driver's side window. So that's why he did not go directly to the police. He did have 911. He hit 911 and just let his phone lay there so they could hear what was going on. So my husband did think quickly, but it happened so fast, you know. I'm just glad he had quick reflexes, that he thought to get his window up, that he thought to lock his door, to hit 911 so they could at least hear the conversation and what was going on, even if my husband could not directly talk to them. And they could hear this gentleman screaming and yelling and hitting the window with a baseball bat with his fist and trying to get into the vehicle. So it was very, very frightening for my husband. So yes, road rage is real, and it can happen in a second. This is an adult channel, so I do smoke cigarettes, so if that's going to offend you, you may want to step out. Because I'm going to smoke a cigarette, and I'm going to drink some coffee. And I'm sitting here, and I'm hearing every bump and every noise. But I am safe. I have cameras running, and I'm sitting here monitoring cameras. And I told my husband to please be careful whenever he went back into town to make the report, to make sure that this vehicle does not spot him again and try to follow him to the police station. So he called the police to let them know he was on his way in. And he told them if he ran into a problem, he would call 911 and just leave the phone on while he was on his way in. But my husband said he really thought that this person could possibly have been on some type of a substance, or he said he just was not acting normal. And he said the look on his face and in his eyes, and he got to see this gentleman up close twice. He said it was just unbelievable, the rage that this person had. And he said if he would have broken my window, I may not have made it home today. That's how aggressive this was. So I'm just so grateful that my husband's safe. So I'm just sharing this, my story, our story. So if you are out, and about, please be aware of your surroundings and take all precautions to stay safe. Because you never know, this can happen so quickly, and you may not have time to roll up your window and to lock your door and to be safe. And I'm just so glad my husband had that time, to get his window up and to lock his door. So yes, road rage is real. This is not clickbait. And this is such a wonderful little town, and we go there all the time. And I was there 2 or 3 times this week. I went to Walmart, to the bank, I went to the local little feed and hardware store, like farm supplies, so I've just been in and out different places. It's just a normal place that we always go. It's where our local Walmart is, our local Lowe's. So it's just not something you expect to happen. And this is, there's very little crime in this city, in their wellness town. Very little crime. It's not a high crime area. So this caught my husband completely off guard. So that's what I can want to talk about this morning. I'm just extremely grateful that my husband is okay. I don't know what I would have done if something would have happened to my husband. I don't even want to think about it. And that's what I thought about last night after I laid down. I thought, something this simple if this person would have been able to get into my husband's vehicle to break the driver's side window, or if my husband had not gotten the vehicle locked, opened the door with a metal baseball bat in that anger, my husband may not have made it home okay yesterday. And that is so frightening to me because my husband is my world. And I really don't know what I would do without him. It's very it's very frightening whenever you have to accept that something like this happened and it could have been worse, and thank gosh thank gosh it wasn't. Is your husband to a yes, he's in filing the complaint right now. And the police officers need to know how many red lights, what streets. They're hoping that there's at least one camera that was in the on one of the red lights, because there is several red lights in town that do have cameras. So they're hoping at least one of them had a camera. So it didn't just happen at one red light; it was multiple attacks. So they're hoping at least one of them has the video. So yes, he's in filing a complaint right now, and he did last night give them the streets, some of the streets, and they were going to start pulling videos last night to see if they could locate the vehicle. And of course, my husband didn't have a chance to even think about getting a license plate number because the vehicle was behind my husband. It wasn't in front of my husband. But he did get a real good description of the vehicle, and with this young man jumping out of his vehicle, coming up to my husband's vehicle, and with a metal baseball bat and attempting to break out the driver's side window with his fist and baseball bat, and trying to attempt to open the door to get in, my husband got a very good description of the young adult male. So we're hoping all of that will help law enforcement to find it. He's lodging a complaint. No, my husband was not armed. He was not armed. He just went to town to Lowe's to pick up a few supplies and was on his way home. And but no, my husband was not armed. He said at that point that he wished he would have been, and I'm glad he wasn't. Because I told him you have to look at the consequences that would have brought as well. So he and I had a very long discussion about that last night as well. And he said, well, I have a right to defend myself. And I said, yes, you do. But you have to understand that it's easier, like the first couple red lights, you could pull through and you got away. Unfortunately, the last red light, you couldn't. And there was a vehicle in front of you, and this vehicle, the aggressor, was behind you, blocking your path. You couldn't go anywhere. But I said, I'm really glad that you were not armed, and I'm glad that you did not have to take further measures to protect yourself. Because with that, there is consequences. For every action that you take, there is consequences. And even though you're defending yourself, you're going to have to, it will have to go under an investigation. Then they'll have to decide, were you in the right, and once I sat down and talked to my husband, he said, you're right, you're absolutely right. There is consequences. If I would have been armed and would have tried to protect myself. And he said the only thing that I knew to do was to try and keep moving forward through the green lights and to avoid the confrontation. And then to try and lose the vehicle. I did have 911 on the phone, so the dispatcher could hear, what was happening, and I could, just be speaking and letting them know I'm going through this red light, the vehicle's behind me again, It's revving its vehicle again. The gentleman's now, getting out of his vehicle. He's approaching my vehicle. I cannot go forward. I cannot move. And this is where I'm at. This is the vehicle I'm in, and this is the vehicle behind me. So thank goodness my husband thought to get the window up, the door locked, and to call 911. And so dispatch was on the phone through the whole thing. And so yeah, my husband's in now filing a formal complaint. It was a very frightening experience for my husband. And he said it's just something you don't even think of, you know. He said I was going through town, I had my window down, my arm laid out the window. I got a few supplies at Lowe's and was on my way home. He said following regular traffic laws, something you wouldn't expect to happen. And it did. Good morning, Kathy P. Good morning. How are you this morning? I'm still a little bit upset, a little bit nervous. Got my cameras all running though. I've got my outside cameras running. I've got some trail cams set up. And, just in case this young man did try to follow my husband home. And my husband wanted me to make sure that I'm safe while he's back in town making a police report. And we did have our cameras running all night and recording just in case this young man did find our home and want to do further damage to my husband's vehicle, my vehicle, or personal property, or myself and my husband's self. Because this young man did mean to do harm to my husband. It wasn't just one assault. It was every red light. He jumped out of his vehicle. I'm so sorry. I know how you feel. My hubby has been attacked, carjacking twice coming home from work. Actually, he had to pull his firearm to protect himself. And that's what my husband said. He said, I didn't know what to think. And he said at that point, I thought, I wish I would have had better protection for myself. And so, yeah, we did talk about that. And but he said he thought the last red light that the young man was going to make it in with the metal baseball bat. He was smashing his driver's side window. He was using his fist. He used his hand and tried to open the door. I'm just so glad that my husband had enough time between red lights to get his window up, his door locked, and he did have 911 dispatch on the phone. Even though he couldn't really talk to them, they could hear him and hear, what was going on. And my husband was saying, I'm at such and such street, such and such red light. The gentleman now has come in behind me, and he's getting out of his vehicle again. He's approaching my truck again. He's at the driver's side, and you could hear him screaming and the profanities and him banging the metal baseball bat against my husband's driver's side window. I'm so glad your hubby is okay. Me too. I'm so glad he's okay. And he said, Tammy, I'm disabled. He said, I don't know that I could have defended myself. It was a young man. He was probably in his early 20s. And he said, and that was the only thing I kept saying is, I don't know if I can even defend myself. And he said, I'm looking around inside my vehicle to see what do I even have in here that I can use to protect myself. And he said it happened so fast, so fast. And I'm sure same thing with your husband, Kathy. It probably happened so fast that you don't really have time. And he said, I'm just so glad that I had time. The first red light, it turned green, and I was able to get through it, and then several others. But he said the one red light I couldn't. And well, my husband and I both have firearms, but we just don't carry our firearms in a vehicle. It's a small town. My husband was born and raised in this area, and I go there all the time. I was at Walmart twice this week. I was at the bank. I was at the little feed and hardware store. it's a low crime. I mean, it's just a very, very nice little town, and you just don't expect something like this to happen. But no, we do have plenty of firearms. It's just not something that we normally would do. And neither my husband nor myself are concealed carry. I get it, hun. So is where I'm at, but I had someone break in and try to kill me. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry to hear that. And that's what my husband was worried about. He said not only did this person follow him through the town, through every red light, and I said, honey, why didn't you go to the police station? He said, I was almost out of town and I would have had to circle back, go all the way back through at least 8 more red lights or more, and then pull into the police station. And every time my vehicle stopped, this man jumped out of his vehicle with his metal baseball bat. And he said, I was afraid if I did make it to the police station and this gentleman, and I got stopped, and this gentleman got out with that baseball bat, if there would have been an innocent bystander there, he said, this man was not acting right, Tammy. He was not acting right. He could have been maybe on a substance of some kind. He said, the look on his face every time, and he was right there at my window, and he said he just did not look right. So he said, what scared me was if I try to make it back to the police station and there's an innocent bystander there, could they get harmed? And he said, I did not want to bring harm to another person. So the only thing I could think of was keep moving forward, keep moving forward. I do, but my problem was at 1:30 a.m. and about to fall asleep. Oh my goodness. I'm thankful you're hubby. I'm thankful my hubby is concealed and carry. Now, see, myself or my husband, neither one are concealed and carry. But we do have firearms, and it's just not something we carry in the vehicle. And I told my husband before I would be afraid that someone would possibly break into my vehicle if I had a weapon in there and was say in a local store, and then if someone would get that weapon that I had and then they would use that weapon to harm someone else, I would never forgive myself. So that's why me personally, that's my preference. That's why I don't uh, have a weapon in my vehicle. And my phone is always right there close. And like my husband did, he hit 911 and he continued to move forward through every traffic light. And but then the gentleman continued to pursue him out of town. And that's whenever my husband really got concerned. He said, I'm not going to go straight home. I'm going to, take some different routes and see if this person finally gives up and goes on. He said, I do not want this person to follow me home. And I do not want to go to the police station and have an innocent bystander hurt because this person is not acting right. He is not acting right. So I think my husband did the right thing. And of course, then he come home and then he talked with a police officer on the phone. We made sure we got all of our cameras up and running and recording, made sure everything was locked. And, he said, I just want to make sure this person didn't have a way and find me home and want to do more harm to myself or to you. So he's in right now making a formal complaint, and the police have been working to see how many different red lights it was, what streets it was, because my husband's very familiar with town, and my husband still had a lot of adrenaline going, but he was also, he's so familiar with this town that he was like, I went through this street and I made a right, and I went through this street and I made a left, and so my husband gave very good description to the police officer. So I'm hoping at least one or more of the red lights did have cameras, and that they did capture at least one of the incidents and was able to get the license plate number. So that's basically why I'm on today. To say yes, road rage is real, and it can happen. It can happen suddenly. Um, I know for me myself, when I go out again, I don't care if it's just to the dollar store. I want to take extra precautions. I want to make sure my windows are up, my doors are locked, and that my phone is close enough to me that I can dial 911. So it can happen in a small town, and it did. It happened in a very small town. So I do have my cameras running, and I'm keeping an eye on everything outside. I do have 2 trail cams that I went ahead and put up just for extra camera coverage, so I'm covered all the way around. You know how to tell if you're being tailed. Well, it's just something that we've never experienced. So, but my husband's very alert, and he's always alert of his surroundings. And I think that's because of the type of business that he had. He owned a construction business for years, and he built homes from the ground up. And when you're building homes and you're 30 and 40 feet up in the air, you're very aware of your surroundings and of your other employees that you've got employed. So my husband has that natural knack that he can look around, he knows his surroundings, and he's always alert to his surroundings. And I think that's how he was able to quickly get the window up, the door locked, and to hit 911, because he's very quick. But like he said, mentally I'm very quick still, but my body I'm not. You make 3 lefts or right turns if the car is still there. Well, that's what my husband did. He made several different turns. He said he went, I think, 2 rights, 2 lefts, and then another right, and this truck was still pursuing. So then of course my husband was going out of town, and there was some small back road area there. So my husband knew that you could go a little loop, and it was a small little back road, and it would also then lead you back into the edge of town again. So my husband even used those loops. So thank goodness my husband was very familiar with the area, and he just kept moving forward. Any chance that he could, he kept moving forward. And finally he looked, and after several turns, the vehicle was no longer there. So then my husband made a few more turns and then took a different route home than what he normally would. He did not just take the regular interstate route home that he normally would. He took some shortcuts that he knew and came a completely different route than what he normally would. And he said, if I would have tried to come directly home, we would have been on the interstate. And this gentleman almost hit another vehicle at one intersection trying to keep up with my husband. So he said, I knew he was aggressive in town, and he almost hit another vehicle trying to keep up with me. If I would have went directly onto the 4 lane, what would have happened? Could this man have caused some major accidents of innocent people just doing their daily thing on the interstate? So my husband did not want to take that chance. So I think my husband made all the right decisions, and thank goodness he's safe. Yes, never the same path, exactly. And so I think he did everything really in the right way. If you use 3 ways to get home, use one each day and don't repeat. And my husband, I would have never thought about that. I think I would have automatically went on the interstate, panicked maybe. But like he said, I watched the next to the last red light. He cut somebody off and almost sideswiped them. just to try to keep up with me. And I thought, I'm right at the edge of town. If I go on the interstate, could this person's road rage end up causing multiple vehicular accidents? So he said, I didn't want to put somebody else in danger. So I tried to just keep moving forward, keeping a level head, and, just kept moving forward and trying to stay safe. So yeah, very frightening, very frightening. I don't know how I would have reacted, but I think my husband, and under the circumstances, I think his reactions were very, very good. I think he thought about others. He did not want another innocent person to get hurt. So I think the choices that my husband made last evening, number one, helped to keep him safe, and number two, helped to keep other bystanders and other people that are just in their vehicle having a normal evening. I think my husband helped to keep them safe as well, because he did get him on the outskirts of town where there wasn't as much traffic after he seen the one incident where the man almost hit another vehicle, almost sideswiped another vehicle to keep up. So, oh my goodness, yes, it was it's something you don't expect your husband to come home and say. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be more cautious when I'm out, be more aware of my surroundings, because I get in a routine, and I'm just driving, and I go where I go, and then I come back to my vehicle. So I guess that opened my eyes that I need to be more cautious of my surroundings. And like my husband said, I mean, if I would have been in the wrong, I could have understand somebody being upset and maybe pulling up behind me and blowing the horn. But he said I didn't even violate any uh, traffic rules. He says I had the right of way and the right turn, and I went through, and this guy tried to cut me off, and then just came in behind me, and it just escalated. So yeah, that's how we spent our evening. And my husband was asking the law enforcement officer, you know, about what is my rights, if this person would have broken my window or got in my door, would I have had the right to protect myself, and everything is a fine line, so it's a very fine line. This is how easy it is to change thinking. Grab a book, open your form page, and count the numbers of zero, top to left to five, right to bottom, then do it bottom right to top left. You don't ask a cop that, you ask a lawyer. Well, this police officer was very informative, and he was very, he explained to my husband, there's always a fine line. And of course, a police officer's not going to tell you, yes, you should have protected yourself, and you should have done this or done that. So the police officer that my husband spoke with last night was very informative. He was very kind, and he commended my husband. He said, I really commend you for your actions and your quick thinking and all of that. So, of course, I have a BA, and I took a lot of law classes. And I told my husband, it only takes one little thing to destroy your life, and you have to think about it, And it may be something as simple as I was protecting myself, and I understand that. But then there's a whole investigation, and then there's trial, and then you're probably going to be arrested, and then you're going to have to be found innocent. I said, so you have to stop and think about all the things that could have occurred if you would have tried to protect yourself. They're not allowed to make a legal statement outside of what they witnessed. Exactly. Exactly. And that officer was very cautious about what he said and how he said it. And I commend that officer. He understood that my husband was upset. And his voice was calming, and that helped to bring down my husband's anxiety a little bit. And they talked, and so I commend that officer. And so I did not get his name. I'm sure my husband will get his name, but I do want to commend him for the way that he spoke with my husband. And he asked all the right questions. He wanted to know, where did the incident start? What what streets, and he wanted to get as much information from my husband as he could. And he was just, I recommend that more officers conduct themselves in that manner, because this officer was absolutely amazing. It was amazing. So he got plenty of information, and by the time that my husband had gotten off the phone with him, they were already looking for video evidence at the red lights. He had a very good description of the vehicle. He had a very good description of the young male assailant. So this officer was absolutely outstanding when he spoke with my husband last night. So, great job. Great job. And I have faith in law enforcement, always have. And I'm sure that they will do everything they can to do a complete and thorough investigation. And if this young man does need help of some kind, he may need help in anger management, some type of help. I hope that this will let him get the help that he needs, so that an incident like this doesn't become a more terrible thing that would happen to someone else. So I hope that they find all the answers they're looking for in this case. I really do, because that should never happen. It should never happen. And like I said, maybe this gentleman just had a bad day. But you don't do that. You don't take your aggression out on somebody else. And especially if it's not even the person that you're taking the aggression out on. It's not even their fault. That is just, it's frightening. So I'm just sitting here this morning thinking about the whole incident. And grateful. I am so, so grateful that my husband is okay, and that no harm came to my husband. I'm so grateful for that. Is a baseball bat a weapon? It absolutely is. A metal baseball bat is, yes, it is a weapon when it's being used in that manner. And is it a weapon that's meant to bring uh, harm to a vehicle or to a person? It absolutely is. So when someone is using a weapon as simple as a baseball bat, a metal baseball bat, it is no longer a baseball bat for recreational use, or not well, for sports, should I say. It's now became a weapon that they want to use to damage a vehicle or to do personal injury to someone. So yes, then that baseball bat is a weapon. It's very scary. And I had to take my Jeep in this morning and drop it off and to have an oil change done and all the tires rotation and the emergency brake cable adjusted. So, of course, my husband went with me to drop off the vehicle and he brought me home. And so, I'm just staying in today and I'm staying home. And when I take little one out to POTTY, I just want to have him real close to me right there in the front yard so I know that I can grab him and come in quickly if I hear a vehicle. That will give me enough time to, go ahead and pick him up and get back in the house. So I'm just going to be very cautious. And then especially once a police report is filed, if something happens, then I want to definitely continue to be cautious and to continue to have cameras running. Because when you file a police report, unfortunately, the person that's filing the police report has to put their name and their address on there. And so that's even more frightening, So this is giving that person our address, my husband's name, and our address to our home and our personal information. So I'm just going to be extra cautious for a while. I'm going to leave cameras running, make sure that they're running, that they're recording, just to make sure that we're safe, that I'm safe, my husband's safe, our home, our personal property, and our vehicles are safe. And I told my husband, I said, that's frightening, just knowing that because you're going in to file this police report, this person's going to have access to your personal information, your name, your address. That's frightening. That's scary to think about. But I really don't think my husband had a choice. I really think he needed to go in and file a formal complaint. Um, I would hate to see this happen to somebody else and for them to end up getting harmed by this particular individual. So, outweighing everything, we had no choice but for my husband to go in and file a formal complaint. I'm just hoping that it doesn't bring any more aggression, and especially not here to our home, against myself or my husband or anything, our home, vehicles, or property. So I'm going to continue to stay watchful, keep my eye on the cameras, keep everything locked, and just be very aware of my surroundings for a while. But anyway, that's what I come on here for this morning, and I just wanted to share that. And And you guys are keeping me company this morning. Thank you. Thank you for stopping in. Thank you, Kathy P, for your for stopping in and for for talking and chat. Thank you very much, sweetheart. I really enjoy your channel. You see me in there all the time. I love your channel, and Ange with Black Sheep Designs. I love your guys' channel. Um, so I think you guys are amazing. And I just think that it's amazing what you're doing with your grandchildren. Bless you, bless your heart, Kathy P. I know that's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility, but you are giving them such a wonderful opportunity. And like your granddaughter getting the honor roll and her coming home, and you're so proud of that. And to hear you express that on your channel, that just, kudos, kudos. They're not my grands. Oh, I thought they were your grands. Oh, I'm sorry. They're not your grands. We fostered and are adopting. Oh, well, bless your heart. And to hear you say your daughter come home with the honor roll 2 times in a row. Oh, my goodness. I mean, you're so proud, And children, they need that. They need that encouragement, that stability, that love. And God bless you, sweetheart, for everything that you're doing. I know I went through a time with all 4 of my grandchildren, and at first I took the 2 young boys, and they were 18 months and 3 years old. And I had them for 18 months, and my ex-husband, their grandfather, had the 2 older girls for 18 months. And then I took all 4 grandchildren, and altogether I had them for almost 4 years. And it's a lot of responsibility. It really is. And my oldest grandson, whenever I got him, he was 3. The baby was 18 months, and he was 3. So I had the 2 babies, the 2 youngest ones. And the oldest boy could only say 1 or 2 words at 3 years old. They were teaching him sign language. And he was very needy. He was a special needs. And I worked with him so much. And we found out the reason that he could not speak correctly was because he had like fluid in his ear, and it had went on for I don't know how long, and even the doctors were treating it. But because of that, he was not hearing properly, so he could not pronounce his words properly. She's doing amazing in school. She's ADHD. She's amazing. Oh, that is awesome. So with my grandson, when I first got him, he was hitting himself, and I didn't understand why he was hitting himself. He'd hit his chin and Well, then I talked to my daughter, and she said, Mom, they're teaching him sign language because they do not think he's going to be able to speak correctly. And they're trying to determine how much damage is done to his hearing. So what I did with him, and he couldn't really express himself, and he was 3. And all of a sudden he was at his Nan-Nan's house. They call me Nan-Nan. And he didn't know where his sisters were or his mother. And he could not express himself. And he was so angry. So when he would try to express himself, he would hit himself, and then he would make little fists, and he would just make little oohs. And I was like, oh, sweetheart. Once I talked to my daughter and got, the background, I would, take my hand, and I would kind of rub his little fist, and I would open his little hand so he wasn't making fists. And I would say, look right at Nan-Nan, And I would talk to him and have him to look right at me. And I would say, are you looking for mommy? If you're looking for mommy, do this. And then he would go like this. So slowly we started a communication by, yes, this is no. And then when he would want something, I would say, okay, now look at Nan Nan. And he would look at me and I say, take my hand, take Nan Nan where you, in the room where you want. Show Nan Nan. So he would take me to the room and I'd say, okay, now point. And if he pointed at the refrigerator, I would praise him. I'd say, oh, awesome. I'd say, you need something from the refrigerator. And I'd say, this is yes, this is no. And he would, and every time we got a communication, of course, I'd praise him. And then we'd open the refrigerator and I would say, now show Nan Nan, point. And he would point and I would touch it and I'd say, is this it? And he would shake his head and then he would clap. So we started to get a communication. And then I would slowly say, now let's say orange juice. And I'd say, now look at Nan. And he would look at me and I'd say, now let's say orange juice. And he'd say, and deuce. And I'd say, yay. So it's a lot of work. And I understand how much responsibility, how much time, patience, and understanding goes along with children, and especially children that are going through, say, separation from their parents, separation from their siblings. And I was really, really tickled to see his sisters. Then actually all four of them came to my home. So now he has his sisters. His mother was coming on regular visits. And he advanced so much. We had him in speech therapy. And in no time, he was speaking correctly. Everything that I did was games. I would get like the different colored little freezy pops. And that way they could choose the color, he and his little brother. And they learned their colors through choosing the freezy pop color. And then I had the little puzzle board that I put on the floor. And they would jump to a square and they would count as they jumped. So they learned their numbers by counting and their colors by the color. So it was very good for me because it took up a lot of my time. And well, gotta go. Gotta get my day going. Okay, thank you, Kathy, for stopping in. I really appreciate it. So I do understand how much you're doing, and believe me, those children are worth it. They are worth it, and every child is worth it. So God bless you for what you're doing, and I hope they end up becoming whatever it is that they want to become in their life, and that they achieve every goal that they want to achieve. So thank you, sweetheart. Thank you very much. But my little ones, all of them were just amazing. And I had 4 little ones and they were a year apart. So I really had my hands full. But it was not hard for me. I guess because I was a grandmother. I was their grandmother. I was their nan. They were familiar with me. And everything we did, we turned our learnings into games. Even the games that I got them, the little PlayStations, we're teaching them colors and numbers and their ABCs. And, so everything we did, we made it into a learning, but it was games. And then, of course, we went camping and fishing and hiking. And then whenever they actually left my home, I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do with all this silence? And that was a big adjustment for me. Because I always heard children, children playing and laughing and talking, and someone needed homework done, and someone had a project they wanted to do, and someone needed a book read. And so that silence was hard for me to get used to. So it was almost like I had an empty nest twice. Once when my daughter left home, I had an empty nest, and that took me a while to adjust. And then after my 4 grandchildren were no longer with me after 4 years, I had an empty nest. So, but they're now all young adults, and they're absolutely precious. Absolutely precious. And I actually have a picture of when they were young. I don't know if I should show that or not. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to share that. But I would take them to see Santa, and they would get their pictures done at the mall. And I would take them to see the Easter Bunny, and they would get their pictures done at the mall. And we had so many wonderful memories. And but all 4 of them are young adults now. I think the baby is 21, just turned 21 this month. So they're all young adults. My oldest granddaughter will be 25 in June. Her sister will be 24 in September. My oldest grandson will be 23 in November, and the baby just turned 21 this month. So all of my little ones are now young adults. Boy, don't that make me feel old. That makes me feel old. But I just wanted to say that I think that what Kathy P is doing with the children is amazing. It's wonderful, and God bless her for that. And any other person, if you're fostering or if you're a family member or loved one that's helping with a child, I just want to thank you and to say, God bless you. God bless you for all that you do. I'm glad you're all safe, but I got to go, hon. Okay, well, thank you for stopping in, and I need to hop off of here and get some things done this morning. I just wanted to share, what happened with my husband, and bring some more awareness, I guess, to the platform that, yes, road rage is real. It does happen. Please be aware of your surroundings. I like and share it as well. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. So, be more cautious of your surroundings when you go out, even if it's a simple trip, to pick up some groceries or supplies like my husband did yesterday. So anyway, I need to hop off of here and get some things done. I want to debone my chicken that I baked yesterday. All dinner turned out amazing. Absolutely amazing. I baked the whole chicken. I made a gratin potatoes and some baked beans and Texas toast for dinner, and it turned out absolutely amazing. So anyway, I'm going to hop off of here and get a few things done in the kitchen and keep myself busy. And of course, I always have things I can get into. There's always something to do. So until next time, bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for stopping in. Thank you for liking and sharing, and thank you, Kathy P, for stopping in and talking this morning. I appreciate that, and I love your channel. I love your channel. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to Kathy P. Let's talk about it. She is amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to hop off here and get some things done. Everyone, please stay safe. And I'm very grateful. I'm grateful that my husband was safe and that no harm came to him. But I did want to bring the awareness to what happened. And it can happen, and it can happen very quickly. So I just want you to be more aware of your surroundings. I know I'm going to be. I know my husband's going to be. So stay safe. And as always, please be kind. Be kind to one another. We need to see more of that. So, have a nice Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And I will see you the next time. Bye-bye, everyone.